Imagine being hundreds of feet below the surface of the ocean, sealed inside a metal tube with no way out. The walls creak under the crushing weight of the water, the air is running thin, and the only thing between you and certain death is the fragile integrity of the submarine. Today we're diving into real stories of submariners who experienced their worst nightmares while trapped underwater. On May 23, 1939, the American submarine USS Squalus began a routine test dive off the coast of New Hampshire. Suddenly, a valve failed, flooding the aft compartments and sending the sub plunging to the ocean floor 240 feet down. Inside, 33 sailors huddled in darkness, the freezing waters creeping closer. With oxygen dwindling, they expected the worst. But then, history was made. Using a brand new invention called the rescue chamber, the Navy managed to lift all 33 survivors to the surface in multiple trips. It was the first successful deep-sea submarine rescue in history. One sailor later said the silence of waiting for that chamber was the loudest sound he'd ever heard. One moment, everything was normal. The next, an entire submarine was gone. In April 1963, the USS Thresher, a state-of-the-art nuclear sub, was conducting deep-sea diving tests when it suddenly lost contact. What investigators pieced together later was terrifying. A pipe may have burst, causing electrical failures that shut down the reactor. Without power, the sub couldn't surface. The pressure built until the hull gave way. The implosion was so violent it registered on seismographs. All 129 people on board were unfortunately instantly killed, crushed by the weight of the sea. Survivors' families were left with only one chilling fact: the crew likely realized what was happening in the final seconds. A brand new British submarine was supposed to be unsinkable. On June 1st, 1939, HMS Thetis set out for trials in Liverpool Bay. But during a test dive, water flooded through a torpedo tube and the sub sank to the bottom with 103 people on board. Rescuers tried to attach air hoses and hammer signals through the hull, but the clock was ticking. Oxygen was running out and carbon dioxide was building. In the end, only 4 people made it out alive using a small escape hatch. The rest suffocated in the dark, trapped only 150 feet below the surface while help hovered just above them. What if the ocean floor were a graveyard of lost submarines and forgotten battles? Traveling to the Baltic Sea, we enter an underwater graveyard that's both mesmerizing and very macabre. Beneath the cold, brackish waters lie numerous sunken submarines and warships, remnants from both World War II and the Cold War. Unlike their isolated, well-known counterparts, these wrecks form a dense underwater cemetery. Many of the subs here are so deteriorated that they're barely recognizable, yet they continue to leak oil and other hazardous materials, posing an environmental threat. Marine historians have described this silent graveyard as a haunting record of human conflict, where each rusted hull tells a story of ambition, tragedy, and the passage of time. Can sonar reveal a ghost ship from the past lurking in the Black Sea? In the mysterious depths of the Black Sea, sonar surveys have at times picked up inexplicable echoes. Faint signals that suggest the presence of a submerged submarine from a bygone era. In one instance, researchers studying the region's sea floor detected what appeared to be the remains of a Cold War-era sub hidden beneath layers of sediment and time. While experts continue to debate its origins, the wreck's location near busy maritime lanes has only fueled speculation. Was it a forgotten military vessel, or something even more clandestine? The ambiguity of this discovery serves as a reminder that even in today's high-tech world, the ocean holds secrets that can defy explanation. What hidden experiments were conducted in the ocean's most extreme environments? Deep in the remote Barents Sea, hints of Soviet-era experiments have emerged. Readings and relics suggesting that scientists once pushed the limits of human engineering in underwater laboratories. Declassified documents reveal that in the decades following World War II, the Soviet Navy launched a series of clandestine deep-water tests. Researchers experimented with extreme pressure, innovative hull designs, and even unusual propulsion systems designed for covert operations. Some of the equipment recovered from these experiments armaments still lies scattered across the seafloor, offering a glimpse into a dark chapter of military research. While much of the technology remains classified, the surviving data and underwater remnants continue to intrigue experts and conspiracy theorists, proving that the race for underwater superiority was just as fierce as any on land. Could a relic of war be so perfectly preserved it seems frozen in time? Off the coast of the Pacific, divers and historians were stunned by the discovery of a nearly intact Japanese submarine from World War II. Used in daring, desperate operations during the war, including the infamous Pearl Harbor attack, these tiny vessels were marvels of engineering designed for stealth and surprise. This particular sub, preserved by cold, dark waters and minimal disturbance, offers an uncanny snapshot of history. The intricate machinery, faded insignias, and cramped interior provide chilling evidence of the lengths nations went to wage underwater warfare. For history buffs and military enthusiasts, the discovery is a tangible connection to a war that reshaped global power, and a reminder that even the smallest craft can have a colossal impact on the course of events. What if a phantom from modern geopolitics was silently stalking the icy waters of the North Atlantic? In recent years, Icelandic authorities have reported unusual sonar detections in their territorial waters, signals that seem to come from an unidentified submarine lurking in the depths. While details remain sketchy and official explanations are scarce, the reports have stirred intense speculation among military experts and local fishermen. Some suggest that these phantom submersibles might be linked to heightened geopolitical tensions and covert military exercises, while others wonder if technology testing or espionage is at play. Although nothing definitive has been confirmed, the incident adds another layer of modern mystery to the age-old dangers of the deep. As advanced detection systems pick up more unexplained activity, we're left to wonder what secrets and how many covert missions are still hidden beneath the icy surface of the North Atlantic. Ever wondered what happens when a sub disappears into the abyss? Let's kick things off with the baffling mystery of the Soviet submarine K-129. In 1968, this Gulf II class sub vanished in the vast Pacific Ocean without a trace. Official records barely mention it, yet rumors of secret recovery projects, most notably the CIA's Project Azorian, swirled in the shadows of Cold War espionage. The audacious plan aimed to salvage parts of K-129 from nearly 16,000 feet below the surface, testing the limits of deep-sea engineering and igniting endless conspiracy theories. While many details remain under lock and key, one thing is for sure: the disappearance of K-129 is a reminder that some secrets are best left sunk deep beneath the waves. What would cause a state-of-the-art nuclear sub to vanish without warning? Next up, we are talking about the haunting case of the USS Scorpion. In 1968, just months after K-129's mystery, this US Navy nuclear submarine went silent in the Atlantic, taking all 99 crew members with it. The disappearance sparked fierce debate over whether a torpedo malfunction, an onboard explosion, or even hostile activity was to blame. Over the years, declassified documents and survivor accounts from similar incidents have only deepened the mystery. As investigators continue to piece together clues from decades-old evidence, the story of the Scorpion stands as one of the US military's most tragic and perplexing underwater mysteries. Could a tiny spark inside a submarine lead to an unimaginable catastrophe? The sinking of the Russian submarine Kursk in 2000 is a story of sudden disaster and harrowing misfortune. During a routine training exercise in the Barents Sea, a torpedo exploded inside the vessel's forward compartments, sealing the fate of 118 men. Despite numerous rescue efforts, the tragedy was compounded by delays and miscommunication, leaving families and the world in shock. The Kursk disaster not only underscored the perils of underwater military operations, but also exposed severe flaws in crisis management and communication during the Cold War's final chapters. This incident remains a testament to how quickly modern technology can turn into a nightmare when things go wrong underwater. What happens when a sunken submarine turns into a nuclear time bomb? Few discoveries are as unsettling as that of the Soviet submarine Komsomolets. Sunk in the treacherous waters of the Barents Sea in 1989, this submarine was one of the Soviet Union's most advanced and secretive nuclear-powered subs. Today, its wreck still lies at a depth of nearly 1,000 meters, and the onboard nuclear reactor and its associated radiation continues to spark concern among environmental scientists. Although its remote location means immediate danger is low, the slow degradation of its hull possesses a long-term risk. Researchers fear that any disturbance might release radioactive material, reminding us that even decades after its sinking, this submarine has become a ticking time bomb right on the ocean floor. Have you ever seen a ghost from World War II rise from the depths? Hidden for decades beneath the ocean's surface, the wreck of the German U-boat U-534 offers a grim glimpse into underwater wartime history. Discovered in 1993 in the chill of the North Sea, U-534 was scuttled by its crew near the end of World War II after damaging an Allied ship. What makes this find so eerie isn't just the rusting metal or the cramped, claustrophobic interior, it's the whispers of past battles and the reminder of the immense human cost of war. Today, many of the U-boat's original components are preserved, and its discovery continues to fascinate historians and divers, serving as a macabre monument to a conflict that still haunts modern memory.
Number 5. Underwater civilization. As we found out in part 1 of this series, the ocean, being mostly undiscovered, is terrifying. Yep, never going in it again, for sure. But discovering a long-lost civilization underwater, okay, I'll admit, that's not scary. That's actually kind of cool. It's pretty neat. We like those. Found 65 feet below sea level off the coast of Sweden. Researchers from Lund University found a Stone Age civilization that dates to around 9,000 years old. They found artifacts that are in great condition, all things considered. They even found an elk antler axe. How epic is that? That's some Elder Rings kind of stuff right there. That's some good loot. Some of these discoveries, they still have to work out. They're not even sure what they found. What researchers do know is that this ancient civilization, they had a healthy life based on what they found. There's lots of food, findings suggest that it was warm out often. It was great and all, you know, until the sea rose up and swallowed the Swedish lagoon. The forests around the lagoon just ceased to exist, and we're not really sure why. The more ocean we discover, the more we learn about our past. And if we can also find treasure along the way, that would be helpful. That'd be great. Number 4. USS Nevada. The USS Nevada was lost in 1948, and it wasn't until a year ago where she was seen again. Yeah, the USS Nevada was referred to as the unsinkable ship, and here's why. During the 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, the USS Nevada was the only battleship to get away in one piece, but barely. It took years of repairs after that, but she returned to battle later in 1944 to support the Normandy invasion. A year later, it assisted in 2 atomic bomb tests, and post-World War II, she was finally deemed too ancient for service. So the Navy used the USS Nevada as target practice, and it took them 5 days and lots of power to finally sink it. How impressive is that? They almost couldn't sink the ship when they tried. That's kind of brilliant. The torpedo was the final strike, and after it sank, the Navy wasn't even sure where exactly it ended up. It was more than 15,000 feet below the surface, so it could have gone literally anywhere. Cut to only a couple years ago, a joint expedition by Ocean Infinity and Search Inc., led by Dr. James Delgado, they found her, just 65 nautical miles southwest of Pearl Harbor, all the way down. Number 3. Amelia Earhart's plane. Yeah, you heard me. How epic is this? The first woman to fly across the Atlantic, she was well on her way to settling even more groundbreaking records, but her plane tragically disappeared over the Pacific in 1937. It's since been a great mystery where the final resting place of Amelia Earhart now is, but we may have actually found her remains back in 1940 on the Pacific island of Nikamuraro. The initial examination of these remains were reported to be that of a man. That was the general idea in 1941, but come 2018, we have a different idea now. Something's come up. Researcher Richard Jantz took another look at the long-lost remains, and since then, photos of Amelia have surfaced, so Richard compared the bone measurements to her body type, and we're pretty sure that's her. But in a recent discovery, May 2021, a murky image went viral, and many believe it's Amelia Earhart's plane submerged in Nikamuraro Lagoon. Back in 1991, part of a plane fuselage was recovered, but it was too damaged to confirm that it was her plane from when it went down in 1937. Do you think it's her? Sound off below. I do, definitely. Or else someone else is remains are out there, and that's also wild. Let's discover who that is. Number 2, crop circles. Before we end off this list, we'll get a little cute, dare I say. Crop circles on the ocean floor. Are these aliens? Alien fish? Do we have this now? Is this a scary shark? What's going on here? These crop circles were first spotted back in 1995 off the southern coast of Japan, and for 16 years, these things were blowing the minds of divers or deep sea explorers. Nobody knew where they were coming from. They would be there one week and then the next day would be gone. Tiny aliens or tiny pufferfish. That's right, in 2011, one of these dudes got caught in 4K, and it's one of the weirdest things I have ever seen. I had to squeeze it in some sort of deep sea list. I love showing this little guy off. These male pufferfish, they try and lure in the ladies by making art. Some birds dance like crazy, some fish make art, okay? Animals have souls, deal with it. The thing that baffles me here, concerns me, if anything, is that these pufferfish use a shell. They use a shell in their mouth, they grab it, and then they scoop out these designs. He uses a tool to carve away his emotions. Small but mighty, and also an artist. And finally, number 1, squid graveyard. During a 2012 expedition in the Gulf of California, lurking all the way at the bottom of the seafloor, scientists came across a bunch of squid carcasses and squid egg sheets, which, I mean, you know, in your working day, that's a lot to see, just going along, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, yikes, okay. But anywho, once they took photos, they got footage, all was good, they returned. Come 2015 though, that's when these deep dives get a little mysterious. When they returned to the exact same area, they found even more carcasses and even more squid egg sheets. What's going on? Why here? Is this like a hotspot? So many questions. Many species of squid will see the adults all join in large groups and lay clusters of eggs in the seafloor, but shortly after this, many of the adults will die. Nature is cruel. This is the case for most things. But it's not the case for every squid, however. There are some mothers who instead lay their eggs on an egg sheet, which they keep in between their arms for months. And when the babies finally hatch, the mother will then drift her way down to the seafloor. So this answers why that squid died, but it doesn't answer why there's so many bodies and so many types of squid births and stuff happening in one specific zone. And that answer still remains a mystery, hence why it's our number 1 today. Kicking off the list at number 10, SS Garsopa. We'll kick off this deep sea part 3 with a shipwreck. Whenever it comes to underwater stuff, I think I have thalassophobia. These were hard to look at and look into, rather. I got chills looking at these photos, honestly. The SS Garsopa was once a thriving British cargo ship. Back in 1941, during World War II, the cargo ship was en route, returning from India carrying a pretty nice amount of silver. It was a lot of silver, an alarming amount of silver. A storm rolled in, so the captain made a quick decision, knowing what was on board, to avoid the rough waters as much as possible. So the ship changed direction and started heading towards Ireland. Again, this was 1941 during World War II, so not a great time to head that direction. The ship was spotted by a German plane, and a U-boat later claimed the lives of the SS Garsopa's 85 passengers. News traveled quickly, and once the war came to an end, a few divers checked out the area. There was nothing. Now fast forward to 2011, Odyssey Marine's team found the ship. 14,000 feet below the surface, surrounded by just pure darkness. The team kept around 80% of the treasure found, and the rest went to Her Majesty's treasury. In case you were wondering, there was around $150 million worth of treasure found. Yeah, if you can do it, then go grab it, sure. It's like one of those things where someone's like, hey, you want $150 million? Go into this deep, dark, scary thing. Would you do it? No, my answer is no. Number 9, Ram's horn squid. This little squishy dude was discovered around 3,000 feet below the surface, and scientists cannot stop talking about the way he moves. Look at him, he looks like a really slow submarine, which is pretty amazing when you think about the Schmitz Ocean ROV that's down there getting this footage. It's also a submarine. How funny is that? He's looking at him, he's looking at them. They're like, what? He's like, what? They're all just both wiggling, trying to balance each other out. His body acts like a submarine's ballast does. Fluids and gases shift around, and in return, this little guy can float up and down whilst wiggling his toes. Look at him. I never thought a squid would be cute until now. Didn't know that was a possibility. Yet here we are. Part 3, most amazing. Cute squid. Number 8, Catherine Sullivan. Not really a deep sea discovery, but I mean, when talking about all these discoveries, you gotta ask, who goes down there? Who does the thing, right? When an entertainer wins an Oscar, Emmy, Tony, and Grammy, we call that an EGOT. Fun little title only a handful of artists can claim. But what about somebody who's been to both space and the deepest part of our Earth? What do we call them? Well, so far, them is just one individual. Her name's Catherine Sullivan. The former NASA astronaut decided to change up directions for this trip, so she joined Victor Vescovo on one of his 8 trips to the deepest known point on Earth. July 7th, 2020, Catherine Sullivan officially became the first person to do both. Go out there and then down there. That's crazy. Your Fitbit's like, what are you doing? What's happening? How many steps is this? What can we call this impressive title? EGOT, a deep got? A deep got go-getter? A deep go-getter? Yeah, you're a deep go-getter. That sounds awful. We're doing our best here. Maybe part 4 will have a fun name. It's impressive. It's so impressive my ears hurt thinking about all these commutes. Bravo. Hats off to you. Number 7, Holy Grail of shipwrecks. Okay, back to shipwrecks. It's hard to read up on these shipwrecks sometimes, well, all the time because on one hand, it's fascinating to discover parts of our history we thought was once lost forever. Of course, we find tons of treasure, that's always fun and noteworthy, but we're also exploring the scene of a horrible wreck every single time. It's quite grim, not on paper. In 1708, the San Jose galleon was heading to Spain from Colombia, but when the British attacked, the San Jose sank to the ocean floor and nearly all 600 crew members lost their lives. Yeah, dark history. In 2015, the ship was found with around $17 to $22 billion worth of plundered valuables. See, back in the 80s, Glocamora Company claimed they had found the ship. Colombia was lacking the financial and technological resources to dive down and actually get it, so they agreed to give GMC 35% of the findings. In 1984, they then handed the rights over to an American company, Sea Search Armada. Then the game changed. Since then, and still to this day, legal battles have been unfolding over this lost treasure. COVID delayed it quite a bit, so if you can hold your breath for a really long time, it's still waiting there. No one knows what to do with it yet. I'm like, see ya, be right back. Number 6, the Vasa shipwreck. Back in 1628, the Vasa sunk within 20 minutes of setting sail, and it claimed the lives of 30 souls on board. How tragic is that? Only 20 minutes and it was gone. The Swedish Navy launched the ship August 10th, 1628, and it was once considered a high-tech warship, even referred to as spectacular. So what happened? How did this thing sink in 20 minutes? That's crazy. Well, the first rush of wind caught it off guard and it swayed a bit. The second rush of wind sank it. There's gotta be more. There was a crowd around and everything to send it off, but the 64 bronze cannons that were installed during the rushed process of building the ship were too heavy. That's why it sank. And the lack of oxygen in the water allowed for its rediscovery to continue its story. The Vasa was built with carvings all around the wood, carvings centered around the king at the time, King Gustav II. So when the wreck was rediscovered in 1961, 95% of the wood was still intact, so it still tells a story. Number 5, under the ice. This dark discovery was pretty recent. Recent as in October 2021. The Hakon project is one I would never sign up for personally, but I'm surprised it's taken this long to do something along these lines. The Hakon project is a group of around 30 scientists. They teamed up to send a deep sea robot 13,000 feet below the icy surface of the Arctic Ocean. This was the first time we got to see the hidden volcanic vents that have been hiding for centuries, because obviously it's that deep and that cold, and now we have the resources and people who are brave enough to go and camp out in the Arctic to go explore. That's crazy. Number 4, ancient Greek shipwreck. I remember hearing about this back in 2018, so I'm excited I get to throw it on a list. The oldest shipwreck discovered in the Black Sea. It looks like it sank 50 years ago, but actually this ship is from 400 BC. It's an ancient Greek trading vessel and it's not very large, but somehow this thing is very mighty. 2,400 years later, over a mile below the surface, the lack of oxygen again actually preserved this ship. That's why it looks not ancient. John Adams, principal investigator with the Black Sea Marine Archaeology Project, describes the findings as something he never thought was even possible. Yeah, more than fair. That long ago, like, we're still trying to figure out the pyramids. We're like, oh my god, this thing's just chilling there the whole time. Just a fish is staring at it. This discovery changed what we knew about seafaring in the ancient world. The oldest intact shipwreck known to mankind. That's not a bad title. Another 2,000 years we'll find nothing but plastic on the bottom of our oceans. Number 3, underwater river. We've heard about this one at some point, I'm sure, but how is this even a real thing? How is this possible? What are we looking at? What is this? Back in 2016, researchers working in the Black Sea found these very strong currents. Currents of water flowing at the bottom of the sea like its own river almost. If this 115-foot deep river was on land instead of, well, under the Black Sea, it would be ranked number 6 in the world for the amount of volume alone that's constantly rushing through it. So pretty impressive. The river carries heavy sediments along the seafloor, hence why it makes those grooves over time. And yeah, over time those currents carve out their own path, and now it's massive and extremely powerful and unstoppable. But luckily for us, you need a deep sea rover to take a good look, so you're not gonna fall in anytime soon. Number 2, deep waste. I mentioned some deep sea plastic on this channel before, but this 2021 discovery is just a new low, pun intended. Right off the coast of LA, hiding around 4,000 feet below the ocean's surface, sitting there for quite a long time, were literal barrels of garbage, just waste. The plume of evil coming off of these things also, it looks like a nuclear wasteland. Probably because it is a literal nuclear wasteland. How horrible is that? There weren't 30 or 40 of these barrels also, in case you're wondering. There were thousands. Around 27,000 were found. 2 weeks of searching with subs. What a sad expedition that must have been. Oh my. These barrels were dropping into the ocean around 1947 to around 1961. That's the window of time. You'd think after barrel 5,000, somebody would be like, this feels wrong. I don't know. And finally, number 1. Beneath a glacier. We had to end this part 3 on some new footage from the bottom of an Antarctic glacier. And this glacier also, in case you're wondering, is the size of Florida. So if you're imagining like a big ice cube, it's a bit bigger than that, just a little bit. This is like finding the bottom of a continent. This thing is massive. And we sent a rover underneath all of it. How scary is that? If it were to collapse, our sea levels would rise 10 feet, just to give you an idea of how big it is. And in 2019, researchers drilled 2,300 feet right through the Thwaites Glacier and dropped a robot with a camera down, and then they just roamed around. And they saw this. Hold your breath. This is the first time we've ever seen the grounding zone of a massive glacier. There's only 1 meter of space between the bottom of the glacier and the rocky seafloor. Could you go down there? I don't think I could. I would swim underneath it and pretend like I'm lifting it up, you know? Just kidding. I wouldn't even get into the submarine to go down this hole. Not a chance. Also, can we not drill through a glacier the size of Florida? Just sounds like a bad idea. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe leave this project alone. Kicking off our list at number 10, a mammoth tusk. Scientists are currently trying to bring the woolly mammoth back to life, so it's fitting that we throw this recent discovery on our list here. Back in 2019, scientists from Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, they were poking around the ocean floor. They were poking around 10,000 feet, not too far up the coast of California, and they found what they thought was an elephant tusk. Now that by itself would be a pretty neat discovery. Animal remains in the deep sea, let's go, that's great. No, this one was even better. We found a mammoth tusk. At first, the team only grabbed a small sample, but last year, in July, they were able to return and get the entire thing. Voila! It belonged to a Colombian mammoth. Those were mammoths that didn't have a lot of hair. They didn't need it. They lived in North America, so things got a little warm sometimes. 10,000 years after they died off, we're still finding their tusks. What do you think about bringing them back to life? Should we do that? Sound off below. I say no. Definitely not. They're way too big and scary. Also, they died before. They'll probably die again. Sorry, I don't know. Number 9, giant phantom jellyfish. Beautiful? Yes. Terrifying and for sure an alien? Also yes. This beast was discovered back in 2021 in, you guessed it, Monterey Bay. The classic spot apparently for sea monsters. The research team sent in a deep sea robot to take a look into the abyss, and they discovered this phantom giant jellyfish again. Yeah, I said again. Originally, this jellyfish was documented back in 1899, living at depths of 3,000 to 13,000 feet. It's, yeah, more than fair. She's hard to catch. Who is she down there? Never know. But luckily, we got a video of her in action last year. Check it out. This is why I don't ever go in the oceans. Ever. Cheers. Number 8. Deep sea anglerfish. These guys are so scary, we have to talk about them. Living at depths of over 6,000 feet, the deep sea anglerfish lives in complete darkness. Like Vin Diesel in Pitch Black. It was first discovered back in 1833 when it washed ashore in Greenland and was then taken to Johann Christopher Hangman Reinhardt in Denmark. It was first referred to as the football fish or the man gobbler. Great names, okay. Female anglerfish have a glowing lure at the top of their head. That's how we recognize them. It's like the whoop thing, right, in Finding Nemo. It's scary and it's something I'm glad hides at the bottom of our oceans, but it's needed for their survival. The light is created due to bioluminescent bacteria. Thousands of fish have it, and in the deep sea, anglerfish uses it to hunt. It draws fish in right in front of its massive, scary mouth and then just, they see the disco light, and then moments later they see another light, the light of the fish lords. The spiny dorsal fin hangs over their head. It's called an esca, it's an organ, and it emits photophore light. It's a main method of hunting, which is pretty badass. It kind of has to be because it has no arms or anything. It's just a big scary face moving around the ocean. And as for prey, well, she'll take what she can get, no matter how big.
Probably ate it head first, because this thing probably came in to look at the light that the anglerfish has, and then the anglerfish grabbed it and then sort of swallowed it, and its stomach has expanded to sort of fit it all in.
The deep sea anglerfish can expand their jaw and stomach, and they can eat prey that's twice the size of them, although they often eat shrimps, snails, and other smaller fish. But once you're in, you're tucked, you're not going anywhere. You're screwed. The males actually aren't equipped with the natural lure of light, and when they reach adulthood, their digestive system no longer functions. So it needs one of these leading ladies to survive. I'll let that speak for itself. Number 7, old coral reefs. Or dying coral reefs. This one's actually kind of sad. After all, the list is dark discoveries. These are all scary or dark, literal darkness for some of them. Back in 2009, after a 4-week expedition to explore the deep ocean just southwest of Tasmania, scientists found deep water coral reefs, which is exciting at first until they realized that these coral reefs are dying. They're on their way out. So now there needs to be more research done into why exactly these reefs are dying. We would like to know that. That's kind of something we're working on currently. If the reason they're dying happens to extend to the shallow reefs as well, this could cause massive problems for both marine life and us, our human life. Scientists need to figure out whether the coral was dying because of the ocean warming up, maybe it was disease, or perhaps it was an increase in ocean acidity. Whatever the case is, if it extends into shallower water, it's bad news for us. 25% of marine life would lose their habitat. The coastal fishing industry would be affected, of course, so no more fish and chip specials. Save the ocean, you know? For red lobster's sake, Let's smarten up and save the ocean. Number 6, Chuck Lagoon. This lagoon was Japan's main base during the war, but come 1944, the United States launched an attack, which some deem as Japan's Pearl Harbor, where 60 ships were sunk and around 250 planes as well. So for 70 years, there's been a massive graveyard literally just sitting in the depths of the Pacific, and it wasn't until recently where we got a good look at these haunting artifacts from history. This photographer went down, took some photos, and said it was one of the scariest shoots ever. They described the atmosphere filled, of course, with, human skulls, remains, gas masks, bullets. Obviously, it was haunting to look at. Nobody wanted to go down, so that's when we send in a submarine. That's when we send in a drone, because we don't like to look at skulls and picking up stuff out of the sand. We don't like to do that. Nobody was expecting these artifacts to be that well preserved after all this time, too. Like all these things, even a mammoth tusk, these are all in pristine condition almost. It's like the ocean's haunting and unexplored. Number 5, holes. If you have trypophobia, you may want to skip this one. Or face your fears together. I don't like holes either. I'm diving in. Let's do it. Off the coast of Big Sur, California, which is a real place and not just a Mac update, a survey revealed about 15,000 holes on the bottom of the ocean, and they're all the same size, which is weird. They all measure up to be 11 meters wide and 1 meter deep. The team at Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, our friends, they found about 15,000 of these, and then they found 5,000 more that were even bigger. The little guys are micro depressions in the earth, and the big ones are pockmarks. Initially, scientists here thought that it was methane underneath the seafloor coming out to say hi and, leaving a big crater, big poof. So rovers went down there, tests were done, no methane. In fact, there hasn't even been any methane for 50,000 years. So what's going on here? These craters are doing a pretty good job with the ecosystem though, wildly, because now there's deep sea creatures just living in them. They even found a whale skull just laying in one. Imagine being a crab, coming home to that. I throw up. I go, little bubble of puke in the ocean. Number 4, MV Derbyshire. This ship was twice the size of the Titanic, but James Cameron didn't make a movie about it, so you may not have heard about it. Let me fill you in. I'm not James Cameron, but I'll do my best. The MV Derbyshire was the biggest British registered merchant ship of all time to sink. That's an odd brag when you think about it. But she was assembled back in 1976 and lost in 1980 en route from Canada to Japan. A Mayday distress call was never issued, and the ship was following proper ocean routes with weather routing companies, so they were doing all the right things, yet somehow it sank. September 15th, 1980, a search began for the missing ship and crew, but 6 days later, the search was called off. Nothing was found, not even a clue, honestly. The ship was declared lost. The sister ship of the Derbyshire ended up sinking as well due to a deck cracking, so the families urged officials to search again. Come 1994, the Derbyshire was found. Number 3, a huge squid. I'll talk about this thing every chance I get. I hope you haven't seen or heard about this because I slept a lot better the less I knew, honestly. The big fin squid, the BFS, the big squid, is rarely seen, hence why it's on our list here today. It actually lurks in many oceans, hiding in the deep. The big fin squid lives in the permanent dark zones of the ocean around 1,200 meters or 4,000 feet deep in the sea. So the guy can't see anything. He's blind down there, as are most of these monsters. On November 11th, 2007, an ROV was searching around the deepest, darkest waters in the Gulf of Mexico, and lucky for us, they got one on film. Yeah, 23 feet long. I know you're probably wondering as soon as you saw that video. Depth perception is like, oh, maybe it's small, maybe it's this. Nope, stupidly large. They look like balloons, scary, haunting balloons, just casually floating, watching you. I hate how calm it looks too. It looks like it locked onto you, like it's like kinda following your moves. Is this a boss battle? This feels like a boss battle. Let's move on, this guy's scary. Number 2, Siphonophore. Siphonophores, okay, where do I even begin? This is a real thing, not an alien? Okay, cool. Upon first glance, this appears to be a single multicellular organism, but they're actually an entire colony of polyps and medusoids that are collectively known as a zooid. Yep, I'm saying real words, I'm not just making them up. A few years ago, scientists found the longest siphonophore ever. They found it and it was 154 feet long. If you thought that last creature was long, this thing is stupid. Just a huge long piece of spaghetti just floating around in the ocean. But really it's actually not spaghetti, it's a bunch of different little creatures all working together. Reading up about this thing, there was a quote that I read and it said, "We at least need to know what's down there." No, we don't. Leave it alone. Leave everything, leave it alone down there. I can't even deal with a spider in the apartment. Where do I even begin with this? And finally, number 1, an ancient city. We'll end this list with a recent discovery. The lost Egyptian city of Heraklion was found after disappearing under the Mediterranean Sea 1200 years ago. Now this city has a bit of history behind it, you know, being founded in the 8th century BC and all, and researchers believe Heraklion was the port that you'd arrive in if you were to travel back then. Well, recently, last summer in 2021, more to this ancient sunken city was found in Egypt, and it's changing history, dare I say. This was led by the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology. This sunken military vessel, this 25-meter ship, was found in this sunken ancient city. In another part of this lost city, remains of a Greek funerary area was also discovered, dating back to around the 4th century BC. So this discovery connects the historical dots for us. Greek merchants living in the ancient Egyptian city. This tells us that the Greeks settled here during the late pharaoh dynasties, which is wild. We're literally just connecting all these pieces of this historical puzzle. And also we're finding treasure at the same time, so it's not all scary fish. We just need to send cameras and submarines underwater everywhere and just check under every shell. What a wild list this was. Kicking off the list at number 10. Glow-in-the-dark shark. Yeah, you thought left shark was the coolest fish in the pond? Think again, pal. Glow-in-the-dark sharks. Apparently, we got them. Terrifying. 2 years ago, scientists were able to identify 3 deep-sea sharks: the kitefin, the black-belly lantern, and the southern lantern shark. All 3 of them look like they're from Pandora. They're glowing. They're literally glowing. Bioluminescence is fascinating. We mentioned the deep sea anglerfish in part 1 of this list. So now we've got glowy gill Gary over here to worry about. Awesome, I'm never swimming again. These sharks were found in the Twilight Zone, around 1,000 meters deep off the coast of New Zealand. Yep, never swimming again, ever again. Let's move on. Number 9. The frilled shark. Another scary shark. Awesome. Back in 2004, marine biologists discovered this dinosaur, the frilled shark, if you want to call it a shark, okay. It was lurking about 870 meters below the surface. This one looks like an eel, almost. It's so scary looking. Oh, I hate this. I hate the ocean. Frilled sharks can grow up to 7 feet long, and they fight like Daredevil. They can hunt in complete darkness. They don't need to see anything to whip your ass. Remember that next time you're skinny dipping. Unless you can hold your breath for a seriously long time, you won't run into the frilled shark anytime soon. They're only found about a mile below the surface, so sleep swimmingly tonight. Number 8. Black dragonfish. All of these fish are so scary looking, and no, not all of these things are fish. Just a few off the hop, because get them out of the way. The black dragonfish is the first time scientists have found an ultra black deep sea fish. This thing is awesome. I love this. The black dragonfish literally has the word dragon in it, and I'm not surprised. He fits it. He fits the picture. These little guys can be found at depths of 1,600 feet, and you'll see this one coming towards you, as these fish too possess bioluminescence. If you can't tell from these photos, they also have teeth. They have big, scary, dragon-like teeth. Even Khaleesi would see this and be like, no, I'm good. Number 7. Apollo 11. They say space and the ocean are pretty similar, but nobody expected to find this. The engines of the Saturn V rocket that fell off during the Apollo 11 missions. They should have never been found, realistically. The odds here are just mind-blowing. Right off coastal Florida waters, found 16,000 feet below the ocean surface. These things are massive. They're so heavy we could barely get them out of the sea. You know who found this thing laying on the ocean floor for more than 40 years? Jeff Bezos. Yep, Amazon CEO Jeffrey Bezos. JBs. He found this. He found these back in 2012. What's the shipping fee for a couple of Apollo 11 rockets? It's probably not cheap. Number 6. USS Johnson. Once a US Navy destroyer, the USS Johnson sank during the Battle of Samar back in 1944. It sank after a battle with a large fleet of Japanese warships. Victor Vescovo, one of the few to reach the Marianas Trench, was the first one to stumble upon the remains of this sunken warship. The remains were found quite recently, back in 2019, and it's now known as the deepest known shipwreck of all time, which is a weird brag. She was found 6,450 meters deep in the Philippine Sea in the Pacific Ocean. To quote Victor, who at the time was leading said expedition, he says, "The wreck is so deep that there's very little oxygen down there, and while there is a little bit of contamination from marine life, it's remarkably well intact except for the damage it took from the furious fight," end quote. The ship is so deep that it took them a handful of trips just to locate the thing entirely. There were 327 crew members on board the ship during the battle, and sadly, only 141 of them survived. The diving team was respectful about their mission, and they laid wreaths both before and after their dives, which is just a nice thing to note off at this point, honestly.
The USS Thresher, a cutting-edge nuclear submarine designed to hunt Soviet subs met a chilling end on April 10, 1963. During deep-sea diving tests off the coast of Massachusetts, something went terribly wrong. Garbled messages from the submarine hinted at, quote, minor difficulties before communication was lost entirely. The Navy scrambled to search for the missing vessel, eventually discovering the shattered remains 8,400 feet below the surface. A court of inquiry concluded that a likely cause was a faulty pipe joint, leading to a cascade of problems. Imagine icy cold water spraying onto electrical panels, shutting down the reactor, and leaving the submarine powerless. The crew tried to blow the ballast tanks to surface, but it seems that moisture in the air system froze and blocked the emergency release. Trapped at crushing depths, the Thresher imploded, taking all 129 crew members and shipyard personnel with it. This tragedy spurred the Navy to launch the SubSafe program, which is a rigorous submarine safety initiative. The K-278 Komsomolets, a unique Soviet submarine nicknamed Mike by NATO, had the impressive ability to dive deeper than any American submarine at the time. This was due to its titanium hull, a super strong material that could withstand the immense pressure of the deep ocean. In 1989, disaster struck during a routine patrol in the Arctic. A fire ignited in the engineering compartment, quickly spreading through the submarine's cables and systems. Despite frantic efforts to contain the blaze, the submarine lost power and was forced to surface. Imagine the chaos. A nuclear-powered submarine on fire, floating helplessly in the frigid Barents Sea. The crew sent out distress signals, and most abandoned ship plunging into the icy waters. For hours, the submarine remained afloat, the fire continuing to rage. But eventually, it succumbed to the flames and sank to the ocean floor over a mile deep. The crew faced a desperate fight for survival. Many perished from hypothermia in the freezing water, while others were rescued by a nearby fishing vessel. Tragically, 42 of the 69 crew members lost their lives. The wreck of the sub remains on the seabed, a chilling reminder of the disaster, with its nuclear reactor and 2 nuclear-armed torpedoes still on board. Though efforts have been made to contain any potential radiation leaks, the submarine continues to be monitored closely, a silent specter haunting the depths of the Barents Sea. The ARA San Juan, a submarine in the Argentine Navy, disappeared on November 15, 2017, with 44 crew members on board. This chilling event occurred during a routine patrol in the South Atlantic as the submarine was making its way back to its base in Mar del Plata. What followed was a massive international search effort involving over 30 ships and aircraft from various countries. Adding to the mystery, an underwater sound consistent with an implosion was detected near the submarine's last known location. This suggested a tragic end for the crew, and hopes of a rescue dwindled. The search continued for weeks, but the submarine remained elusive. It wasn't until a year later, on November 16, 2018, that the wreckage was finally discovered by a private company using advanced submersibles. The submarine was found in pieces scattered across the ocean floor at a depth of nearly 3,000 feet. The haunting images of the wreckage confirmed the devastating implosion, ending any remaining hope of survivors. This marked a somber moment for Argentina and the international community as they mourned the loss of the 44 sailors, including Argentina's first female submarine officer. The ARA Santa Fe, originally the USS Catfish, had a long and storied history, starting in the US Navy during World War II, where she hunted for minefields and patrolled the Yellow Sea. After a major upgrade, she served in the Korean War and conducted training exercises before being transferred to the Argentine Navy in 1971. Renamed the Santa Fe, she found herself in the middle of the 1982 Falklands War. Tasked with transporting Marines and supplies to South Georgia, the Santa Fe faced a harrowing attack. A British helicopter spotted the submarine and dropped depth charges, causing significant internal damage. As the Santa Fe limped back to Grytviken, it was bombarded with torpedoes and machine gun fire, injuring one crewman. The submarine managed to return to shore, but the damage was done. The crew abandoned the listing vessel and the British took control of Grytviken. In the aftermath, a tragic incident occurred. An Argentine crew member, Petty Officer Felix Artuso, was mistakenly shot and killed while a prisoner of war, becoming the only Argentine submariner to die in a war. The submarine itself, damaged and partially sunk, became an environmental hazard, leaking oil and other contaminants. After several attempts, the British finally disposed of the Santa Fe in 1985, towing it out to sea and sinking it in deep water, ending the submarine's long and eventful life. Picture a German submarine, U-864, is silently gliding through the depths of the North Sea during World War II. It's on a secret mission to deliver a deadly cargo to Japan, 67 tons of liquid mercury, a key ingredient in explosives. The crew is tense, knowing they're carrying a ticking time bomb, not just for their enemies, but for themselves. Unbeknownst to them, a British submarine, HMS Venturer, is hot on their trail. Venturer's crew has cracked the German naval codes and is determined to stop U-864 at all costs. A cat and mouse chase ensues, both submarines submerged, each listening for the other's slightest sound. It's a high-stakes game of hide and seek where one wrong move could mean instant death. After hours of tense pursuit, Venturer takes the gamble. The crew calculates U-864's trajectory and fires a spread of torpedoes. The German sub hears the incoming threat and desperately tries to evade, but it's too late. One torpedo strikes, causing a catastrophic explosion. U-864 is ripped in two, sinking to the bottom of the sea, taking all 73 crew members and their deadly cargo with them. Fast forward to 2003, the wreck of the U-864 is discovered off the coast of Norway, but the danger isn't over. The mercury containers have rusted, leaking poison into the surrounding waters. It is a chilling reminder of the submarine's deadly mission, a ghost ship still haunting the depths, its toxic legacy lingering on. The Soviet submarine K-129 vanished in 1968, leaving behind only a trail of mystery. This wasn't just any submarine, it was a ballistic missile sub carrying nuclear weapons, disappearing without a trace in the vast Pacific Ocean. The Soviets frantically searched, but the Americans, eavesdropping with their underwater listening system, found the wreck first. What makes this story extra creepy is what happened next. The US, in a top-secret mission codenamed Project Azorian, tried to raise the sunken sub from its watery grave almost 3 miles deep. Imagine a giant claw reaching down into the darkness to grab a nuclear-armed submarine, the craziest claw game ever. They managed to lift part of it, but then the claw malfunctioned and a large chunk of the sub fell back to the ocean floor. The whole operation was so secretive that it was disguised as a manganese mining expedition. The US has never fully disclosed what they salvaged, but rumors suggest that they got their hands on nuclear torpedoes and other military secrets. So what really happened to K-129? There are many theories, each more chilling than the last. Was it a battery explosion, a collision with a US submarine, a missile malfunction, or even a mutiny? We may never know for sure, but the mystery of K-129 remains one of the Cold War's most fascinating and unsettling tales. The Soviet submarine K-429 has a strange and unsettling story. This nuclear-powered vessel wasn't just dangerous because of its reactor, it actually sank twice. The first time was in 1983 during a training exercise. Even though the submarine was undergoing repairs, the Soviet High Command ordered it out to sea anyway. During the dive, a section flooded instantly, tragically killing 14 sailors and sending the submarine to the bottom of the bay. Luckily, it sank in a shallow area, so the surviving crew members were able to escape through torpedo tubes after 2 crewmen swam to the surface to get help. The submarine was repaired, but in a bizarre twist of fate, it sank again in 1985 while docked, this time due to worker error. No one was killed, but the K-429 became infamous for its double sinking. The story shows how dangerous submarines can be even without enemy attacks, and highlights the sometimes sometimes careless attitude towards human life during the Cold War. Again, the INS Dakar, a World War II era British submarine purchased by Israel in 1965, vanished in the Mediterranean Sea in 1968 with all 69 crew members on board. The submarine was en route to its new home base in Israel and had been making excellent time, even requesting to arrive early. Then, after a few routine transmissions, it simply disappeared. An international search effort was launched, but no trace of the submarine was found. Israel insisted there was no foul play, but the disappearance of the Dakar became one of 4 mysterious submarine disappearances in 1968. Years later, a fisherman found the submarine's emergency buoy washed up on shore, but the experts who examined it made some errors that misled searchers for decades. Meanwhile, there were unconfirmed reports that an Egyptian warship had sunk the Dakar. Finally, in 1999, a joint US-Israeli search team discovered the wreckage of the Dakar on the seabed almost 10,000 feet down. The submarine appeared to have rapidly plunged past its maximum depth, causing a catastrophic hull rupture. The exact cause of the sinking remains unknown, but it's clear that whatever happened was sudden and devastating, leaving the crew no time to take emergency measures. The discovery of the wreck brought some closure, but the mystery of what happened to the Dakar in those final moments continues to haunt us. The French submarine Minerve vanished in 1968, taking with her 52 souls. She was last heard from while cruising just beneath the waves in the Gulf of Lion, promising a nearby aircraft a swift return to port. This was the final transmission from the doomed sub, and she disappeared without a trace in waters thousands of feet deep. Despite an extensive search, the French Navy couldn't locate the missing sub. For over 50 years, the families of the lost sailors were left in the dark, unsure of what had happened to their loved ones. The official file on the incident was classified, adding another layer of mystery to the tragedy. It wasn't until 2019 that a glimmer of hope emerged. A new search using advanced technology was launched, and this time, they were successful. The Minerve was found broken into 3 pieces resting on the seabed. Though the sub was in ruins, the letters MINE and S were still visible on the hull, a chilling reminder of the vessel and the men who sailed on her. This discovery, while very bittersweet, provided some closure for the families who had waited so long for answers. The site of the wreck was declared a maritime sanctuary and a final resting place for the Minerve and her crew. The USS Scorpion was a nuclear submarine, and it vanished mysteriously in 1968, becoming one of only 2 nuclear subs the US Navy has ever lost. The official investigation was inconclusive, leaving the incident shrouded in mystery. The wreckage, found deep in the Atlantic, showed the sub had imploded, likely from going too deep. But what caused this descent remains a chilling question. One unsettling theory is that a battery malfunction in one of the torpedoes sparked a fire, triggering a deadly explosion within the submarine. Another disturbing possibility is that a malfunctioning torpedo activated accidentally and turned on the sub itself, striking in a horrifying twist of fate. Yet another theory suggests the sub's trash disposal unit malfunctioned, causing flooding and a cascade of failures leading to the implosion. Adding only another layer to the story, some believe the Scorpion was sunk by a Soviet submarine, possibly in retaliation for another incident. This theory claims a spy ring within the US Navy could have leaked the Scorpion's location to the Soviets, but the Navy maintains no Soviet sub at the time had the capability to track and attack a US sub like the Scorpion. Despite decades of investigation, the truth behind the USS Scorpion's demise remains elusive. The unanswered questions and numerous theories contribute to the eerie tales of this lost submarine, making it a haunting chapter in naval history.
Number 5. K-129. In the annals of maritime history, few tales incite as much intrigue and speculation as the mysterious disappearance of the Russian submarine K-129. In 1968, this formidable vessel vanished without a trace in the Pacific Ocean, taking with it a crew of 98 men and a deadly payload of nuclear ballistic missiles. Not a great thing to lose by any means, not at all. The vanishing of K-129 set off a frantic and exhaustive search by the Soviet Navy. However, despite their best efforts, they were unable to locate any trace of the missing submarine, of course. The loss of K-129 with its crew and deadly arsenal represented a significant and unsettling mystery of the Cold War era. In an incredible twist, the CIA embarked on a covert operation named Project Azorian. Using advanced technology and deep-sea recovery techniques, the CIA was able to locate and partially raise the wreck of K-129 from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. This top-secret operation only added to this enigma surrounding the submarine's fate. Yet, despite these efforts, the reasons behind the sinkings of K-129 remain shrouded in Cold War secrecy and intrigue. Was it onboard equipment malfunction, a failed missile launch, or something more sinister? Who knows? The truth lies hidden with K-129 in the dark and silent depths of the Pacific Ocean. And we're never gonna know.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the INS Dakar. The story of the Israeli submarine INS Dakar is a chilling reminder of the unpredictable perils of the deep sea. This submarine, originally named HMS Totem during its service in the Royal Navy, met a tragic end in 1968 while journeying to Israel. The Dakar, now a ghostly relic in the Mediterranean Sea, was on its maiden voyage to its new home port when it tragically disappeared, taking with it the lives of 69 crew members. The sudden silence from the Dakar triggered an extensive search operation that spanned decades. Nations joined hands, deploying advanced technology in an attempt to locate the missing submarine, but the Mediterranean Sea, with its vast expanse, kept its secret well hidden. Despite the tireless efforts, it took more than 30 long years before the wreckage of the Dakar was finally located. The investigation into the disaster pointed towards a catastrophic hull failure as the cause of the sinking. However, the exact reasons for this failure remain buried with the submarine.
Number 3. The HMS Afray. The British submarine HMS Afray vanished in 1951 during a training mission, and not only this, but this event marked the last time a British submarine was lost at sea. HMS Afray was on a routine training exercise in the English Channel with 75 crew members and trainees on board. Now, as part of the exercise, the submarine sent a routine radio message, a mundane act that would become its last known contact with the surface. Now suddenly, and without explanation, the Afray was engulfed by silence. This sudden radio silence sparked a massive search operation, of course, but the submarine remained elusive, its fate unknown. The search for the Afray lasted for several months before the submarine was finally, thankfully, found. Now, the discovery was chilling. The Afray lay silent and lifeless at the bottom of the English Channel. Investigations into the disaster pointed towards a potential failure of the submarine's breathing apparatus as the primary cause. However, despite the best efforts and investigations, the precise reason for the Afray's tragic end remains a mystery, submerged in speculation and uncertainty. What a way to go.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the ARA San Juan. In 2017, the San Juan and her crew of 44 mysteriously vanished off the Argentine coast, inciting a desperate search and a nation's collective anxiety. The San Juan was not just a submarine, it was an embodiment of Argentina's maritime capabilities, an icon of national pride. When it disappeared, it left an eerie silence and a trail of unanswered questions. The world watched in suspense as an extensive multinational search operation unfolded, the sea's vast expanse challenging every effort to locate the missing submarine. A full year passed before the wreckage of the San Juan was finally discovered, resting in the unforgiving depths of the ocean at 3,000 feet. The discovery, however, brought more grief than relief as it confirmed the tragic fate of the 44 souls on board. Investigations into the cause of the disaster pointed towards a sudden onboard explosion, likely triggered by a faulty battery. This catastrophic event would have given the crew little chance of survival, abruptly ending their underwater journey.
And finally, number 1, the KRI Nangala. During a routine training exercise in the Bali Sea, the KRI Nangala, a German-made vessel, set out with 53 brave souls on board. Now suddenly, an unsettling turn of events unfolded. Nangala vanished without a trace, leaving behind a wake of uncertainty and fear. A massive international search and rescue operation was immediately launched as nations rallied together in a race against time to locate the missing submarine and its crew. Naval vessels, aircraft, the best technology they could get their hands on, all of this was deployed in a desperate search for answers. Days turned into nights, loved ones were waiting anxiously for any news, and finally, a chilling discovery shattered all hope that remained. The wreckage of the KRI Nangala was found on the ocean floor, fragmented into 3 parts. Now, it's believed that a blackout occurred on board, leading to a loss of control over the submarine. In the haunting depths of the Bali Sea, the vessel succumbed to the immense pressure, and its hull compromised and shattered. Terrifying, absolute terrifying way to go. Couldn't imagine.
Starting off our list in the number 10 spot, we have the OceanGate's Titan. Of course, we had to start with this one today because this story is currently unfolding as we speak. A significant search and rescue mission is currently in progress in the Atlantic Ocean, where a tourist submarine touring the Titanic wreckage has been missing for over 48 hours. On board the submarine, known as the OceanGate's Titan submersible, are 5 individuals, including British billionaire adventurer Hamish Harding, esteemed French diver Paul-Henri Nargolet, and Pakistani entrepreneur Shahzad Dawood and his son Submarine Dawood. The 5th person is believed to be Stockton Rush, the founder of OceanGate Expeditions. The Titan submersible was equipped with a 4-day emergency supply of oxygen before its departure. Rear Admiral John Mauger of the U.S. Coast Guard indicated on Monday that they anticipate between 70 to 96 hours of oxygen supply remaining. The submarine dove on Sunday morning, but communication with the Polar Prince, its Canadian research icebreaker support vessel, was lost approximately an hour and 45 minutes later. OceanGate Expeditions, a firm providing 8-day trips to visit the Titanic wreckage at a very hefty price of $250,000 per individual, is currently mobilizing all possible options to safely retrieve the crew. Both the US and Canadian Coast Guards are participating in the ongoing rescue efforts, and it truly is an absolutely horrifying scenario.
Number 9. USS Scorpion. The ill-fated USS Scorpion was an American nuclear submarine that mysteriously disappeared in the Atlantic Ocean back in 1968. It was carrying a crew of 99, and the disappearance of the submarine sent shockwaves through the naval community. The USS Scorpion was expected to return in a port in Norfolk, Virginia, but as days turned into weeks, it was quite clear that something bad had happened. Now, despite deploying massive search operations, not a single trace of the submarine was found, as if it was swallowed whole by the ocean. There's nothing left. That's why the ocean is so terrifying. Again, my palms are wet as I'm doing this list. It wasn't until several months later that the wreckage was finally found. The remnants of the once formidable USS Scorpion were found resting at an incredible depth of 10,000 feet below the ocean's surface. The discovery raised more questions than it did answer. What led to the tragic end of such an advanced submarine? How did this happen? Speculations abound, with theories pointing to possibilities from equipment malfunction to a self-inflicted torpedo explosion. But the real answer remains elusive, hidden deep within the unforgiving grasp of the sea. Terrifying.
In our number 8 spot today, we have the HMS Thetis. Thetis embarked on her maiden dive in 1939, an event that was meant to signify the start of a long and successful tenure at sea. Tragically, however, the first voyage quickly descended into disaster. Due to a very catastrophic malfunction of a torpedo tube, the Thetis sank into the depths. As the vessel succumbed to the ocean's relentless pressure, the majority of the crew found themselves trapped within the submarine's metal confines. Despite their best efforts, most of the crew tragically succumbed to suffocation in the cold, unyielding grip of the sea. In the face of this dire situation, a handful of crew members managed to escape using early versions of rebreathing devices. These devices, while primitive, saved the lives of the lucky few who were able to use them effectively. Subsequent salvage operations managed to retrieve the Thetis from her watery grave. However, the memory of her maiden voyage remains etched in the annals of the Royal Navy as one of its worst peacetime disasters. The loss of the Thetis was not just the sinking of a submarine, it was a shocking revelation of the state of naval preparedness at the time. It was a harsh lesson learned and a wake-up call to the Royal Navy.
Number 7. Minerve. In 1968, the French submarine Minerve disappeared into the depths of the Mediterranean Sea. Along with the submarine, there was 52 crew members that happened to also vanish, leaving behind a country in shock and a mystery that seemed impossible to solve. Despite immediate and intense search efforts involving a formidable assembly of ships, they couldn't find anything despite all efforts. No trace of the vessel was found, no debris washed ashore, no distress signals were picked up. Nothing. The Minerve had disappeared, literally this time without a trace, leaving behind a void filled with sorrow, unanswered questions, and a nation in mourning. Now, over the following years, the memory of the Minerve remained alive, but a profound silence surrounded the lost submarine. A silence that lasted over half a century. But in 2019, more than 50 years after the Minerve vanished, a glimmer of closure finally arrived. 50 years too late, but better late than never. The wreckage of the lost submarine was discovered, finally. It brought a sense of tangible reality to a story that had for so long been this haunting enigma. Now, despite this discovery, the cause of the disaster still remains cloaked in mystery, leaving the tale of the Minerve as one of the most enigmatic and haunting narratives of the deep. I'm never swimming again.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the USS Greyback. The USS Greyback was an American submarine that prowled the expanses of the Pacific Ocean, striking fear into the hearts of enemy vessels. With a successful combat record, the Greyback was considered an essential asset until it mysteriously went missing in 1944. Shockwaves rippled through the ranks when the Greyback failed to return from patrol. An air of disbelief surrounded its sudden and unexplained disappearance. The official explanation pointed towards an operational error in deciphering the submarine's last known position. This misinterpretation tragically led the search efforts astray, and the Greyback was declared lost at sea. For many decades, the submarine's fate remained shrouded in mystery, its whereabouts unknown. Then, in a chilling revelation, the Greyback's watery grave was finally discovered in 2019. The submarine was found resting in the ocean's depths, its once formidable structure now a very silent and eerie testament to a bygone era. The discovery of the USS Greyback not only confirmed its final resting place, but also served as a solemn reminder of the perils of warfare and the brave souls who navigate them. In November 2017, Argentina's submarine ARA San Juan vanished with 44 crew members aboard. The sub had been returning from a mission when contact was suddenly lost. For weeks, families of the crew gathered at naval bases, clinging to hope that their loved ones would be found alive. The Argentine Navy first claimed it was just a communication failure, but then international monitoring stations reported something chilling. An abnormal sound had been detected near the sub's last known location, one consistent with an explosion. When the wreck was finally discovered a year later, nearly 3,000 feet beneath the South Atlantic, it revealed the grim truth. Investigators believe a short circuit in the submarine's batteries caused a chain reaction, triggering an explosion that tore the vessel apart almost instantly. What haunts the families the most is the fact that just hours before disappearing, the crew had reported trouble with the batteries and even smoke on board. They knew something was wrong, they asked for help, and then they were gone. Trapped in their steel coffin at the bottom of the sea, their final moments remain one of Argentina's darkest naval mysteries. Submarines are already dangerous machines, but imagine being sunk by your own weapon. That's exactly what happened in October 1944 when the American submarine USS Tang was patrolling the Taiwan Strait. The Tang was one of the most successful submarines in World War II, having already sunk dozens of enemy vessels. But during a nighttime attack on a Japanese convoy, fate turned against them. The Tang fired a torpedo, but instead of speeding forward into its target, the weapon malfunctioned. It circled back like a boomerang and slammed directly into the submarine's stern. The explosion was massive, ripping through the back of the vessel and flooding compartments instantly. Out of 87 crew, most were killed in seconds as the submarine plunged toward the bottom. Only 9 men managed to reach the surface by making a desperate escape through the aft escape trunk in the middle of the night, clinging to life in enemy waters. But survival came with a cruel twist of fate. They were then captured by Japanese forces and spent the rest of the war in brutal prison camps, enduring starvation and who knows what else. The Tang's story is still considered one of the most ironic and tragic endings for a submarine in naval history. France once built the largest submarine in the world, the massive Surcouf, which was part battleship, part submarine. This beast of a vessel carried heavy guns, torpedoes, and even its own observation plane in a hangar. It was meant to intimidate enemies and patrol the seas like no other submarine of its time. But in February 1942, while traveling near the Caribbean, this submarine mysteriously vanished with all 130 crew members aboard. Theories about what happened to it are almost as unsettling as the disappearance itself. Some reports claim it collided with an American freighter in the dead of night, splitting the submarine open and sinking it instantly. Others insist it was mistaken for a hostile vessel and accidentally attacked by Allied forces. And then there are even darker theories suggesting sabotage or secret secret missions gone wrong. What's certain is that in just a single moment, the largest submarine in the world became a steel tomb, swallowed by the ocean without leaving a trace. To this day, no definitive wreck has ever been confirmed, making the Surcouf's fate one of the most chilling maritime mysteries of World War II. In May 1968, the American nuclear submarine USS Scorpion was returning from the Mediterranean when it suddenly stopped responding to messages. It simply vanished. For weeks, the Navy searched in silence while families of the 99 sailors on board waited helplessly. When the wreck was finally discovered, nearly 10,000 feet down in the Atlantic, the scene was both haunting and mysterious. The Scorpion lay shattered on the seabed, but what exactly caused the disaster has been debated ever since. Some investigators believe the submarine was destroyed by one of its own malfunctioning torpedoes, which may have armed itself and circled back. Others whispered that it might have been sunk by the Soviets during the height of the Cold War. The truth is still partly hidden behind classified reports, leaving only speculation. What's most terrifying is imagining those final moments for the crew, thousands of feet beneath the ocean with no chance of surfacing. Unlike some submarine disasters where survivors held out for days, the men of the Scorpion likely knew in seconds that they were not going home. It was supposed to be routine. On December 17, 1927, the American submarine USS S4 surfaced near Provincetown, Massachusetts, after completing exercises. But tragedy struck when a Coast Guard destroyer accidentally plowed into it, ripping open the forward compartments. The submarine sank immediately, trapping its crew beneath the icy Atlantic waters. For the next 3 days, rescuers worked desperately as word spread across the country. Divers could hear 6 sailors hammering against the hull from inside the wreck, a desperate SOS in the dark. Food and oxygen were running out, but storms and rough seas made rescue efforts nearly impossible. The Navy tried to attach air hoses, but every attempt was hampered by bad weather and technical problems. Families on shore prayed as the hammering continued. Then, after 3 agonizing days, the tapping stopped. The 6 men had lost their lives in silence, while help hovered just out of reach. The S4 disaster shocked the public and forced the U.S. Navy to completely overhaul its submarine rescue procedures, but for those trapped inside, it was too late. Their final struggle became one of the most haunting submarine stories in American history. Not all submarine disasters happen in battle. In 2008, the Russian submarine Nerpa was conducting sea trials in the Sea of Japan when the fire suppression system malfunctioned. Instead of releasing harmless gas, it flooded the compartments with freon, suffocating dozens of men. Sailors clawed at the hatches trying to escape, but the toxic gas spread too quickly. By the time it was over, 20 people had died, many of them civilian technicians. Survivors said the silence afterward was almost worse than the chaos. It was a reminder that even the most advanced technology can turn into a death trap when you're trapped underwater. It started with a loud explosion that rattled the seafloor. On August 12, 2000, the Russian nuclear submarine Kursk suffered a catastrophic torpedo explosion during a naval exercise in the Barents Sea. Out of 118 crew, many were killed instantly, but 23 men survived the initial blast and retreated to the 9th compartment, hoping for rescue. For hours, they wrote messages to their families, one sailor scribbling, "All of us are hoping, none of us can get to the surface." But the rescue attempts were delayed. By the time divers reached the wreck 9 days later, the men had passed away in the dark. Their final notes, written in cramped handwriting, revealed just how conscious they were of their slow deaths.